Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Colton, and in today's video, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey that I went upon to photograph a lighthouse. And it's a fun journey in the end, but in the moment, it was maybe a bit of a frustrating journey. I think I got a shot that I'm really proud of. And so I want to share the journey to getting to that shot and what kind of went into the failures of the shots leading up to it. So if this is at all interesting to you, please do give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you do want to see more content like this. And as we go through, feel free to ask any questions that you might have about the process of getting from point A to point B. But starting with my first attempt, which was again intended to be the only attempt, but that is the kayaking trip that we went on the very first day that we were there.
Hey, are you staying at the same Airbnb?
Now, I have to say the kayaking was a lot of fun, and we saw quite a number of starfish and different other sea-dwelling creatures. And it was also a really beautiful day, which is why I thought, hey, these shots are going to be awesome of this lighthouse because the light is beautiful, the weather is beautiful, and we're in the water shooting up at the kayak. This is going to be great. And unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. Now, I was shooting this trip with the Canon R7, and I had a couple lenses, but my best lens was the Sigma 56mm f1.4, which is about a 90-ish millimeter lens in full frame terms. And I think when I look back at these shots, that's really the issue with this first attempt. It's just too wide. And so that 90 millimeters is just not enough. We need maybe more like 200 millimeter reach or more to really get the shot that we're envisioning here. And I think really of the shots that I took, the beach photo was kind of the best one. And even that is, again, still too wide, not enough reach there. So a bit of a bummer. On the way back to the car after our kayaking trip, we saw the lighthouse again from the parking lot. And in this case, we were just too low to the ground. We couldn't get high enough to get over the fence and knock that out. And so instead, we just had a fence shot of the lighthouse. So attempt one didn't quite work out. But on the way there, we had passed a series of restaurants that were on a pier at a really close distance to the lighthouse. And so later that evening, we went back, had some dinner, and then went on to the pier and took some shots. And here's how that attempt went. And so in this attempt, I think versus the first attempt, the situation about what's working or not working is kind of reversed. And so we're much closer to the lighthouse. That plays better to the lens that we have. And we're at a more interesting angle. We even have the pier. We can kind of play with adding some boats into the shot. But the downside is the weather is not quite ideal. It's a bit later. And so we have some sort of kind of cloud coverage that is really reducing the overall light from a light standpoint, and from just the sort of ability for the image to pop. It's just not working well. And so it ends up being a bit of another failed attempt, just for opposite reasons from our first attempt. And so at that point, I think, you know, I'm done with these attempts. We need to get closer, and we need to be able to change up the angle that we're at. And so we just drive to the lighthouse to pay the $12 to do the tour. And unfortunately, the day that we go happens to be a special event. And so the lighthouse is closed, and we can't go in and photograph it at the angle that we want. And so that's a bit of a bummer. They offer us to come back in a few days, because unfortunately the very next day is Memorial Day. And so the lighthouse will also be closed, but that will also be our last day there. So I make a kind of half-assed attempt to get some shots of it from a whole new angle across a field, but it just wasn't a very appealing photograph. And so once again, we just don't quite figure it out. But that said, I'm not giving up. And I do a bit of research online and find that there is a really interesting park at a good angle to the lighthouse. And that park is kind of at the entry to the inlet. So we should have a nice clear view, maybe get some boats sort of driving through. And so the very next day in the early morning, I go and make what is probably the third or fourth or fifth attempt at this point to photograph the lighthouse. The weather was beautiful. The light was probably perfect for what I was trying to do. And we did have a wonderful clear shot of the lighthouse. But once again, we were sort of back to the situation of not really having enough reach, significantly so. And so the lighthouse is just a small little blip in the far background. Still probably not quite the shot I was looking for, but interesting. There were a few other things like photographing the people in the park and the lifeguard stations that were a lot of fun as well. So it wasn't a total bust. It ended up kind of being like a photo walk in that case, but still not what I was looking for. And so as I drove back from that attempt, I noticed something that I had noticed before but hadn't really considered, which is that there is a bridge that literally sits next to the lighthouse, and it has a walkway. And the thought crossed my mind that perhaps I could just climb the bridge and do so in the evening and photograph it from up on the bridge. And so that was my final attempt. Hey everyone, we're here in Florida, and I've been trying to photograph a lighthouse, the Jupiter Inlet Lighthouse. And every time I've come, the weather's been terrible or it's been closed. And the same is the case today. It's a little bit not the best weather. And it is closed because it's Memorial Day. But I just found this bridge. You can kind of see the lighthouse in the distance there. But I found that this bridge actually goes up and has a pretty clear shot. Yeah, it's starting to sprinkle just a little bit, so I'm hoping to get up here, grab a quick shot, and then just say, look, whatever I got, I got. I have photographed this lighthouse from like 4 or 5 different vantage points. Anyway, we're gonna climb to the top of this bridge, see if we can get a good shot. If not, we can at least get a nice little view. Yeah, here's the inlet, ocean just on the horizon there. So we're gonna grab a shot up here. I think this might be the one. A shame we can't go out on this balcony area though, it looks like they're still working on it. So we'll have to try to do our best to get it from where we're at. We're up on the bridge and we have this wonderful view, as you've seen, of the lighthouse. It's a whole new angle that I think really plays well to the lens and to the reach that we have. But unfortunately, the shot that we've got has just fallen a bit short. It's a bit bland. And I realize it's because the sun has just not come out. There's too much cloud coverage. This is a bummer. We're not getting the pop that I'm looking for. We're not getting the light that I'm looking for, but at least we're closer and we have a more interesting angle. And so, you know, if this is all that I'm going to get, then this is all that I'm going to get. And in that moment, as I'm standing up there, just trying to enjoy the bridge before I go down, you know, really soak in the view, the light comes out. This is the shot I was able to get. And this is at f6.3, which is a really good amount of depth of field, but also getting a really sharp image top to bottom, center to corner. And I really like the way this comes out. This is what it was missing, is the light that helps make the colors pop. And I was really satisfied. You know, is it the best shot ever? Maybe not, but it is finally a shot that I can be happy with. All right, yeah, I think we got some absolutely beautiful shots. So I'm very pleased with what we got. And if we didn't get it, we didn't get it. And if we did get it, then we put in a lot of work to do so. It's never been open any of the days that I've made it out here, unfortunately. And I photographed it from down there in that harbor a couple times. Also way over there in the kind of entry to the inlet. Down here in the parking lot. So I've made an effort for sure. Man, it always feels good when you persevere, when you want to get something. Maybe this lighthouse won't even look cool and I'll be like, whatever. Or maybe I'll love it. But either way, it's like I set my mind to it. I've spent probably 3 separate days trying to get it, and I finally got it. And the weather cooperated because right when I went to shoot, the sun finally came out at the perfect moment. So if it looks good, great. If not, user error probably. That is the message, if any, in this video, is that you don't have to have the perfect gear, but you do have to have persistence and think a little bit outside of the box, be willing to try some new things in order to end up with a shot that actually is probably better than the original shot you had with the right gear. The final shot you got creatively with the wrong gear maybe is more interesting. So with that being said, that's the video. If you have any questions about the process that I went through, settings, anything like that, or you have any comments about the photos, drop them in the comments section below. And otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, do give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. That'll keep you in the know for when the next video drops. But for now, I'm Colton. I'll see you in the next one.